Somebody asked me the other day, why do psychics see the absolute opposite to one another? They contradict one another. So one psychic says they see this in the future, their prediction, and another psychic says something the totally opposite. Why does that happen? I believe it happens because we are human. We already have a belief system that's still there in the ego self, which influences the way we interpret what we're seeing. So I've said this before, you could get 4 people standing on a hill, a lightning bolt hits a tree. All 4 people are looking at exactly the same thing. But when you ask those 4 people separately, what did you see? Their interpretation can be different. One can make it so dramatic that, because they want to get the story interesting, they want everyone to believe them. Another person can just brush it off and go, oh yeah, it's just a lightning hit a tree. Another person can put a theory into it because they like theories, they like mystery. And another person could put fear into it because they live in fear themselves. So you've got 4 people that see exactly the same thing, but they interpret it differently. Psychics are no different. We are messengers. So depending on the level that we are at ourselves, what we feel about ourselves, what our life is like, how we think, how we believe, determines the interpretation of the message. Now, if you're somebody who loves fear and you get an ego boost yourself, when you can create fear in somebody else, then you're quite likely to interpret a message based on fear. If you're somebody that likes to comfort somebody and not give them any fear, then you're interpreting a message that's coming through with comfort and hope for that person. And also, I've known, because I know a lot of people that work in this field over the last 40 odd years that I've been doing it. I know somebody who was a chronic alcoholic. She was an alcoholic and she was quite a well-known psychic. And so even though she can interpret messages, there is some toxicity in her own system through her own alcoholism that will come out in those readings. So there may be fear attached, there may be a bit of negativity attached because of what that person's feeling. I've also seen absolute delusional people working in this field that just basically put fear into everyone else. And each time they put fear into that person and that person reacts, they get a buzz. Their ego gets a buzz. And it's really, really hard to let the ego get out of a reading. You've really got to just put opinion aside, because quite often I will see somebody ask me a question in a reading, and when I first read it and I'm not connected, I'm just reading it, my personal opinion will automatically come up with an idea. When I get into the actual reading and I let my ego get aside and I go into that deep state of just being connected to them and their higher self, I get a totally opposite to what my opinion would have been. I'm getting what they need. I'm getting the authenticity. So that's why we all have different visions. And I was just starting to think about one I had, 2-3 years ago. I had this really dense feeling about Will Smith. Like I thought something was going to happen to him on a film set. Like I could see this, because mine is visions. I actually pluck a vision out. So I'll see a vision and I pluck it out, and then I got to interpret it. So I interpreted it as I actually saw a helicopter and felt that there was some kind of accident, and I felt like someone was going to be injured. I didn't see a death. I just thought someone was going to be injured, and it had to do with Will Smith, and I thought it was him. Now, well, that's a couple of years ago. Nothing's happened to him. He has a movie coming out, The Bad Boys or whatever it is. That's coming out. I'm interested to see if he actually jumps out of a helicopter in it, if he appears injured in it, because I have then misinterpreted the vision. Yes, I got totally described the vision correctly, but I misinterpreted as in, was he acting it or was it real? And I've done that before with people as well. And then I heard, is it the guy that channels because I have a whole other topic on people that channel. For one, I don't believe that you have to change your demeanor to channel. If you're channeling a message, you can just channel the message. You don't have to create a funny voice, and you don't have to name who you're channeling, because there's no names on the other side. When I died and went to the other side, no one had a name. It's a knowing. Everyone just knows the energy of everyone else. No one has names over there. Names are only something we label here. So when someone tells me that they're channeling a certain name, that's my red flag to start with. Then when they have to put on a funny voice, different to their human voice, I think they're doing that to try to convince people that this isn't me talking, this is a channel talking. And then you see someone like Matt Kahn. He's an amazing man. I absolutely love Matt Kahn. He has no ego attached. He can just channel a message and still talk in his normal voice. He doesn't have to go into a strange kind of voice to make people believe he's being inhibited by some other spirit of some kind. That's just showmanship, and there's a hell of a lot of showmanship in this kind of work. So Bashar, I think that's what he calls himself, he said nobody can be a psychic. He still has an opinion. That's his opinion. That's not a channeled message. That's just his opinion, because he can't do it. If you can't do something, you're quite often an egoic person will bag another person. And so, yes, there is free will, but if we're using clairvoyance and going into the future, going into a time in the future, and then seeing a picture, that picture exists because they're bringing the picture back. The interpretation is what is more important, because we can misinterpret, and sometimes we get it absolutely perfect. But if we go into the picture, we're going into and we're bringing a picture back, then it is there. It's going into a time that hasn't happened yet. And that is what clairvoyance is, and that is very, very real. And I've been doing that for 40 years, and I could sit down with Bashar and show him evidence of so much that I plucked out of the future, and it actually did happen. But he's just saying no one can do that because he can't do that. And I've heard different people, spiritual people, when they can't do something themselves, they say it's not possible. It might not be possible for them, but it is possible. So why can't we just understand that we're all on different levels? Where, I am totally different today than I was in my 20s. Like what I would have told somebody in my 20s, I had ego attached to it. Definitely. I will admit that. If I am wrong with a prediction, I will admit that I'm wrong with a prediction. I'm very, very skeptical of somebody who will never admit they are wrong, who sticks to their prediction so much, and when it's proven they are wrong, will still not admit. They'll come up with some other excuse. So you've got to watch those kind of people, because I think they're dangerous. I think, that just admit you're wrong. Like I can admit, oh yes, I got that prediction wrong. I'm human. I am interpreting what I am seeing. I'm trying to be humble with it, and I'm not trying to be egotistical. I don't want a big showmanship. I don't need to be on stage. I don't need to have thousands of followers, and I just do it quietly and successfully. And I just feel like people seem to watch so many different types of psychics, and they're getting confused because they're coming up with different information. So just think to yourself, they're at a certain level. They may be trying to instill fear in you. They may be trying to comfort you. They may have addictions in their own life. They may have their own problems in their own life. And it is reflecting in the way in which they are transmitting messages.